Hey there, welcome to the NBA DFS build. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. We are going to help you by breaking down this 4-game slate on Tuesday, October 29th. We've been a little bit hit or miss lately. I've been sick, so that's the main reason why, and hopefully we are back at it full time here, and we can get you NBA videos daily. The goal, obviously, is to help you win money. And if we do help you at all, please give this video a like and also subscribe to the channel. Actually, just stop and like the video anyways, because you're getting free advice. So just like away if you're watching and get anything from this, and hopefully we can help you win some cash. All right. There is actually a lot to talk about here, despite this being only a 4-game slate. We have Steph Curry off the top. He is not playing, and like 3 other guys for the Warriors are out. So obviously Golden State is a clear source of value on this slate. DeJounte Murray's also out for the Pelicans, and Ben Simmons is out. Are you shocked? No.
Stunned.
So, and we'll hash that out and kind of look at what that means for all those guys, and then also look at the top studs and other values and how you should really build lineups for this slate. All right, man, let's go position by position. Starting at point guard, up top is Luka Doncic. That surprises nobody, coming in with a 52 fantasy projection. What is a little bit surprising, it is completely unowned. So while I did not have a lot of interest in Luka coming into this slate, I mean, 11.5K is what it is, and he was really bad yesterday. That's cool. Recency bias and the presence of Jokic and other ways to target the slate, all that combines to get him super, super overlooked. I am interested in that for sure, especially since there's a lot of chalky point guards on the slate. So let's get your thoughts on Luka and then go from there as to what other point guards stand out for you.
Yeah, I mean, the ownership argument is the main one, I think. Like, he's wildly expensive, and I don't love the spot. But if he's going to be like super contrarian on a 4-game slate, that's a pretty obvious case to get to him a little bit.
Right.
I'm not really getting there right now, but I wouldn't mind doing that kind of with a hand build, just kind of generate a lineup and then make 2 or 3 pivots. And if he's one of them, then it makes a lot of sense. But there is a lot to like at point guard overall. I think Jamal Murray might be chalky again. Pretty much the same play he was last night when he was pretty popular. He's just cheap. He's 7,300. I think he was 71 last night, so it did come up a little bit. But for who he is, usage and all that, the matchup's fine. The game has a 4.5-point spread against Brooklyn. It's a back-to-back for Denver after playing overtime, so that's a little bit concerning. But it is what it is on a 4-game slate. I'll probably be under the field on Murray again, just like I was yesterday, but I think he's a fine play. The value guys, though, really stand out. It's Schroeder without Ben Simmons and Podziemski without Steph Curry, DeAnthony Melton, and possibly Andrew Wiggins.
He's doubtful, so I'm assuming he's out.
I saw he was upgraded to questionable.
Oh, okay.
Let's see what happens.
Well, that's annoying.
Yeah, but Steve Kerr, I think, said yesterday he's unlikely to play, so I would still be surprised if he did, but we'll see what happens. Either way, Podziemski's going to be a good play. I think he might be over-owned, but he is 4.9. Like, he's a way better value on DK than he is on FanDuel. So going to be popular, he and Schroeder, but I really like them both.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I have a lean towards Podziemski here just because he has the more palatable game environment. I mean, this game seems to be kind of overlooked beyond the Warriors' value. It's only got a 217 total, but both these teams play really fast. Of the two, the Warriors are really the only one that would be scary defensively, but they're without 3 main guys. So, I mean, maybe that takes a considerable hit here. I kind of love the idea of stacking the crap out of this game and going as many Warriors as I can get and the ones that I feel the best about. And then either going for completely unknown Luka or running it back with a couple of Pels. So, with that in mind, CJ McCollum looks like an amazing pivot off of Jamal Murray. He is going to be a little bit owned at 18%, maybe a little bit higher than that, but he's going to be less owned than Jamal Murray. He's only $300 more, and he projects just slightly better. They're both really good plays. I have no problem with Jamal Murray at all, but this is not a position where you are lacking plays. I mean, even Kyrie Irving, $400 more than Murray, is going to be, maybe half his owned. So he looks like a more appealing play in tournaments. I just don't see why you need to eat that chalk. It's just like, it is a song and dance, right? Because Jamal Murray is a great play, but why play him at 30% ownership when there are better, like really good plays you can pivot to? And I'm obviously with you on Schroeder there, 6K flat with no Ben Simmons. The playmaking is all his, so he looks really good. Podziemski looks awesome, point guard or shooting guard. Do what you want. 4.9 is just way too cheap. He is a lock for me. If I want to do a flag plant at point guard, he's going to be it. There is a lot to like here. Just like keep going. Keontae George is even kind of appealing at 5.9K, especially with him having about the same price as Schroeder and Schroeder being way more owned. Malik Monk is 5.4K and a little bit interesting in tournaments. I'm surprised his ownership is so high right now, given all the other options at point guard. Maybe that has something to do with shooting guard being a wasteland. I don't know.
He's a small forward point guard.
Oh, wow. That is weird. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because maybe small forward isn't as exciting as I thought.
Guard forward, you can play him in the most spots, so I think it makes sense.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, there's a lot to like here. I think right now where I stand is Podziemski's going to be in all my lineups, and I think I'm going to pivot from Murray to McCollum if I'm going in that range, and I'm definitely going to be way over the field on Luka if he's going to be under 10% owned.
I think Fox is an interesting one too at 8.5.
Sure.
Sabonis is going to be pretty chalky, I think, and Fox is natural leverage away from that. And then the pivot from Podziemski, I'm not saying you have to pivot away from Podziemski, but the pivot would be DiVincenzo, I think, for 4,800.
That feels bad.
Yeah, but I don't think Podziemski has this like super high floor, high ceiling combo either. And DiVincenzo off the bench gets usage. He has a role. I think he's fine as a completely probably unowned pivot.
Yeah. Good call on Fox. The only thing is he is bringing in ownership. It's kind of, you're right there in no man's land between Luka and these mid-range guys, and obviously the punts too. So I continue to love Fox because he is way too cheap. He should be closer to 9K, if not significantly more. So the way I'm looking at the slate right now, I'll just say it now, is that it's really hard to not go pay for one of the top two centers on this slate. I think you have, that's what I'm going to do. I think you have to either get Jokic or Sabonis. And if you're going to get Luka, you're probably getting Sabonis. Otherwise, you're stretching yourself just remarkably thin. But just like the odds of both of those guys not hitting, opposed to the odds of one of these many great options at point guard, not coming close to what Luka does, it's just not good. So that's probably just going to be my strategy. All right. Moving over to shooting guard, obviously a lot of same plays apply. Up top, Anthony Edwards comes in with the best fantasy projection with 46 points. Nobody else comes in with a projection better than 40 at shooting guard. So there's still good plays. Brandon Ingram, Kyrie Irving, Cam Thomas, and the aforementioned Murray and McCollum. All those guys are on the table. Cam Thomas obviously gets a little bit of a boost, just like Schroeder does with Ben Simmons out. And well, these guys are garnering. Edwards is garnering a little bit of ownership at 23%. The other guys I mentioned really are not getting that much ownership, but they're all viable. I am probably going down at shooting guard on this slate, though.
Yeah, I think shooting guard has the best play on the slate, and it's Moses Moody at 3.6. Like, I don't see why you don't play him everywhere. They need guys to play minutes. I don't know if he'll start, but even if he doesn't, I feel fine about it. Like mid-20s minutes for a guy who's 3.6 and should scoop some usage with Curry and Wiggins and Melton out. Just a very easy value. I think he's a plug and play. Another value I like quite a bit besides Podziemski and Schroeder, like we talked about, is Christian Brown. Shooting guard, small forward. He's starting now with KCP gone. The minutes are up there. I think he played 40 last night, including overtime. Not a high usage guy in that offense, but he's been good per minute. Rebounds pretty well. Does get enough shooting usage to be somewhat useful, and he's only 4.4. So I think that's pretty interesting. I like the Cam Thomas call, even though he's a bit expensive for a scoring-dependent guy, but he is averaging like 30 real points per game so far, so it is what it is. And then I think Buddy Hield's probably going to wind up being pretty popular in that Warriors game with so many guys missing from the lineup. I get it, but I think he would be the one I would be generally under on. They do still have quite a few bodies who can fill those minutes. This could obviously burn me. Like, he's been really good to start the year, but if Buddy's going to be like one of the chalkiest plays on the slate, I don't mind going a little under or even with the field on that.
Well, the nice thing about Buddy is you can slide him over to small forward. He is cheap at 5.5K. He's been good, and he's looking at a huge role. Also, he's not even that owned. 18%. I can't believe that sticks, but if it does, sign me up for Buddy Hield. I'll be over. I don't really care. Like I said, I'm just buying into the Warriors' value. And, if I use one or two of them that are kind of overlooked on this slate for some reason, that's just going to help me even more. One other guy I will point out, I'm kind of in agreement with everybody you said, especially Moody. Moody is a slam dunk at 3.6K. I don't even care if he doesn't start. He's going to get 20 to 25 minutes. And in this spot, which I view is the most underrated game environment of the slate, especially with the Kings Jazz being like the place for everybody to go, want a lot of exposure here. So another piece to that puzzle is Jordan Hawkins at 4.9K. He has got 28 plus minutes in each game this year, 25 plus fantasy points in each game. And obviously DeJounte Murray remains out. And so does, is it Trey Murphy that's still out? Yeah. So he's going to play. And we know he is a bit of a offensive spark plug for them at times. So as long as he's going to get about 30 minutes, I'm all about that at 4.9K.
Yeah, I think he's fine. He could get some steam. I don't know if he's going to be unowned, but he's
coming in about
interesting.
15%. So that doesn't worry me whatsoever, especially if I end up getting unowned Luka. I get different in a huge way, leveraging the field right away with the best possible play potentially. So I'm not going to worry that much about ownership. Plus, I'm coming in personally fading Jamal Murray and some of these other mid-range guys who are bringing ownership. So that's another way that I'm going to get different, I think. One other guy I will mention, Kevin Huerter at 4.2K. He's going to push for about 30 minutes. If he gets hot, he gets hot. Not a very safe play by any means, but he is not going to be very owned compared to a lot of these other shooting guard values. And obviously, you could use him at small forward too. So it's just a guy that, if he's coming at 11%, I bet it's even going to be less than that just because Monk is carrying ownership and all these other guys are going to be carrying ownership too. So, all right,
let's kick Zaire Williams is one more to mention. 3,300. No Simmons for Brooklyn. He's had a role anyway with Simmons in. Moody's going to be the one people play in this range, so I don't think Williams is going to be even as popular as his ownership projection is right now. It's just a full punt. I don't think you have to fade Moody to play him. I think you can play him together. Like if you're doing some super stars and scrubs kind of build, I think he's at least worth a mention.
Sure, that could be fun if he gets those extra minutes for sure. All right, moving over to small forward, Brendan Ingram. No, I'm wrong about that. Sorry, got to DeMar DeRozan leads the way, 7.9K, 40-point fantasy projection, coming in with 21% ownership. Lowry Market and Brandon Ingram and aforementioned Cam Thomas, they are kind of all in that same price range, all have a similar projection. They're all way less owned than DeRozan, so just right away, DeRozan's a fine play. I would just personally just pivot to one of those guys if I'm going to be up there in that range. But like I said, I'm probably not going to be because Jonathan Kuminga looks awesome at 5.9K. His minutes have been really wonky. His production's been terrible, but it is a good game environment, and the Warriors are going to be without a bunch of dudes. I would imagine Golden State is going to use this as an opportunity to get him going. Like, I'm going to bet on that. He's coming in only 14% owned. I can't believe that's actually is going to be this real ownership.
On that.
Yeah, I know. So, but either way, like I'm just going to be over on Kuminga. I think it's a smash spot. I think he's too good of a value. And he's going to get going eventually. And this is just a spot where it would make a lot of sense for the Warriors to ensure that happens. If you want to make a pivot, you could go to MPJ. He's 5.8K, $100 less. Cam Johnson could get a little bit more time with Ben Simmons out. He's 5.2K. He's all right. You mentioned Brown, 4.4K, really good value. Not much else I'm seeing there. I personally at small forward or power forward, I'm digging Kuminga quite a bit. And honestly, right now, my shooting guard, small forward, and power forward spots are locked up with Warriors, Podziemski, Hield, and Kuminga, and I don't really care about the ownership.
And Moody.
That too.
Kuminga is easily the best play at this position. It's not a very good one. Like Brown, Johnson, Porter, Monk, don't love it. Cam Thomas, like we talked about at shooting guard, is fine. Gary Payton is still around.
Yeah.
Gary Payton II, still playing for Golden State. Don't feel good about the minutes. Like he's old. He's always hurt. I don't know what's going to happen with him, but he's 3.5. So I think you can take a flyer on him as an unknown value on this team.
Yeah.
wouldn't do it probably in like single entry, but if you're entering a lot of lineups, I think he's someone to play.
Yeah, I like to mention 100% right up there with Zaire Williams. I think those are good pivots off of Moody, and you can pair them if you want. I think like you're already testing the gods with Moody, really, in a sense. Like he's such a smash value relative to the slate, but it's still Moses Moody. But yeah, definitely worth mentioning. He could get a big increase in minutes. He's already getting 15 plus minutes a game too. This is a very, very deep team, but obviously suddenly they are not because they're injuries. Is there anybody do you like anybody up top here? Or are you with me and you're just kind of going towards the value at small forward?
Just trying to find, where is he? Yeah, I think Markkanen's okay. 8K flat. I think that's fine in a tournament. I'm not super psyched about DeRozan or anyone like that. Cam Thomas is the one on the high end I have the most of. But overall, this looks like a pay down position again.
Yep. All right, let's move on to power forward. Leading the way is Zion Williamson with a 41.5 fantasy point projection. He is carrying some ownership at 24%. I love Zion at 8.3K. Like I said, I want a lot of exposure to this game. I don't know if I'm going to force Zion Williamson in because I really like Sabonis and I really like Luka if he's going to be unowned. But if I want to live in the mid-range a little bit, Zion is probably my favorite mid-range guy. I like him over Markkanen, DeMar, all those guys. He's a fine price, good spot. He showed his ceiling already this year, so I have a lot of interest in him. He is carrying a little bit of ownership, so that might get me, to go a little bit less. But I like him. Julius Randle also looks really, really good at 7.6K. It's just going to be like, I have all this value, and then what are my priorities after locking in these value plays, right? I feel like Julius is kind of a no man's land, so I don't know if I'm really going to get to him, but the price is really good. The role is really good. His projection is not through the roof, but the other things I said are probably enough to keep him in your player pool and almost make him a priority.
I think Randall is my favorite play on the slate, probably, who's not going to be very owned. I think he's underpriced. He's second on the team in usage, assist, and rebound rate. He just has a huge role. The minutes are there. This should be a tight game against the Mavs. Not the greatest rim protecting team either, Dallas. So if he's going to be under-owned, which I think he probably will be, just because there is a lot to like in the mid and upper range on this slate, and more than enough value to get to guys like Jokic and Sabonis, I don't think people are really going to play Randall, and he would be the one I would gravitate toward. You can still afford to pay up for Jokic with Randall or Sabonis with Randall if you want, and I think that's really interesting in a tournament.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's a good play. Here's what I'm hoping happens, though. I'm hoping because of the price that ownership updates and it kind of flips and Zion gets a little bit overlooked and Julius ends up being chalkier. And then I'm going to really be more interested in Zion. As it stands, I might be kind of flip-flopping here and going down to Julius, and he would be probably the best option when you factor in price up top at power forward. That said, I'm eating into these Warriors guys, and Kuminga at 5.9 is going to be really hard to get away from. I will note one interesting pivot. Keegan Murray looks really, really interesting. Not too owned for a 4-game slate. 5.8K direct price pivot away from Kuminga, who obviously is going to be a lot more owned than anything is showing. Murray has a dream matchup with the Jazz. He's showed his ability already this year. So I think he looks really, really interesting. Let's see. PJ Washington at 5.3 is a decent value. Naz Reid at 5.2. So there is more value here besides just the Warriors, and it's not going to be that owned.
Yeah, I think you can also play Draymond. He's been really horrible so far, and he's an old man and don't love it, but he's one of those Warriors who's just not going to get, I don't think he's going to get very popular. And it's not like he's overpriced. 6K flat is okay. He has triple-double potential in theory. So I think in a tournament, if he's low owned, I think that's pretty interesting. You can say the same of Slow-Mo for 3.8, another Warrior to throw into the pile who I don't think is going to be popular, but his role has been pretty non-existent. I feel like he should have a role by default in this one. He's probably better than a guy who played 3 minutes in the last game, but again, he's kind of like a Gary Payton style tournament flyer, not someone I'm going to be building around. I like the Keegan
Right.
call, MPJ, Cam Johnson, Kuminga, same guys we talked about at small forward.
All right, cool. All right, kick it over to center. Obviously, Jokic is leading the charge with a 57-point fantasy projection. He is the top projecting player of the slate, and the Nets are not a scary matchup whatsoever. What you noted earlier, they did play in overtime last night, so Denver could be fatigued for sure. Jokic is still an amazing play. He's only coming in at 20% ownership. Given everything that we've seen on the slate, he's right there with Luka in the conversation of just massive stud who is probably not going to be owned enough. So he and Luka are both very viable. If you want to kind of ignore some of these awesome, lower tier or high tier, but not like elite options, Zion, Julius, etc. But right below him, Sabonis, monster chalk. But he's only 9.3K, egregiously priced. He should be over 10K, has a 50-point fantasy projection. The only reason why I wouldn't, just slam Sabonis here and not think twice is the ownership. Obviously, it's $200, $2,000 more, but pivoting from Sabonis to Jokic, you can absolutely afford to do that. It is pretty interesting. But man, it's really tough to go away from Sabonis at 9.3K. Like I said before, though, I really do think you probably should play one of those two guys. And that's what I'm going to do. I just kind of need to decide, am I going to go, Jokic and then not play Luka, or am I going to go Sabonis and then make that Luka decision too? But it's one of those two guys for me for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great. I prefer Jokic even at 2K more. I just think Sabonis might be like heavy chalk on this slate.
He's
There is
really
kind of
chalky
a
so
lot to
far.
like at center, though. You can play Randall there. You can play Zion there. Going down a little further, you can play Draymond there. Taylor Hendricks broke his leg last night, so John Collins might jump into the starting lineup. I don't love that he's center only, but he's only 5'4". I think he's okay. I slightly prefer Kessler in the same lineup for 300 more. I think he's a little underpriced for the role he's going to play. He's been playing 30 minutes in close games. I just think he's a little underpriced for his per minute production. Gobert, in the same vein as Randall, I think is fine. 7K flat looks a little light on him. And then there's another Warrior punt at this position. It is Kevon Looney, only 3,700. Minutes are not great, but he's good per minute. I think there's upside there, as we saw in the last game. So Looney would be on my radar as a punt as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Kessler. I like Kessler, 5.7K.
Oh, Trace Jackson Davis too, 5K flat. It's fine.
Yeah, it's just impossible to know what they're going to do with their bigs, obviously. But yeah, 5K for 24, maybe pushing for 30 minutes. It's hard to hate that. The Mavs guys are splitting their role, but both are viable given their prices. I prefer Lively, but Gafford's totally fine. Good call on Kessler. He's played 30 minutes and then like 18 and then 30.
They got crushed in that middle game.
Yeah, he smashed in the other two games. But he's not going to like shut down Sabonis or anything, but he's going to be needed to cover Sabonis. So I think just the fact that he probably is going to hit the over on those minutes, I think he is an underrated play for sure. Excuse me. But yeah, for me, it's probably up top in that center position. So where I'm at right now is I'm pretty much deciding between Jokic and Luka. This is a rare opportunity where we have a tiny slate and you have two elite players who are not getting enough attention. Now, admittedly, there are so many ways to go. There's so many awesome upper mid-range guys we can look at and feel good about, but they're actually not projecting like so amazingly that I have to go get them, like Jamal Murray, he's projecting totally fine. Like it's a good projection and he's too cheap for the projection, but I think, we can get different, or we can just drop down to Dennis Schroeder and then go up and get a low owned Jokic and maybe complete it with your boy, Julius Randle. I don't know. I just think it starts for me at center. I just need to make that call. Right now, I think I'm starting to lean Jokic based off of the ownership discrepancy. But the main thing for me that I know for sure on this slate is I am gladly eating the Warriors chalk. and I'm not gonna get too cute with it unless the lineup completely changes. I think Pajemski, Heald, Kuminga, and Moody are the 4 plays that stand out the most and the ones that are the safest. I think the next guy of that other team that I'd look at would be Draymond, just because I feel like he would be relatively safe, and like you said, he does have a ceiling, but he also could be completely washed. I'm not entirely sure. So closing things out, do you have any flag plant to leave with anybody?
Probably Randall. I just think he's going to be too low owned for what he can do, and it's a pretty short slate. There's a lot to like at the high end, so interested to see where ownership goes. But with Sabonis looking like pretty heavy chalk, I think Randall is a fine alternative.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. All right, that's going to do it for us. Hit that like button. Also subscribe to the channel so you get alerted to more videos just like this. We'll be pushing out a Thursday Night Football showdown slate video at some point this week, probably tomorrow. We'll also get to the NFL main slate, and we'll also be hitting NBA every day that we possibly can, as long as my voice and health allow me to do so. All right, thanks for watching, and good luck.